Welcome into the studio, and today I'm going to critique these two wonderful pieces of artwork that I've had sent in to me, and I'm going to show you some techniques whereby just with a few adjustments I think you'll notice a much more dramatic three-dimensional structured look to the artwork. So let's jump right in and make a start. Okay, so here's a reference photo for the next piece of artwork. So the photo is used from Pixabay. The artist's name is Meta or Mate, M-E-T-T-E, so apologies, I haven't got a clue how to pronounce that correctly. And okay, let's jump straight into this one. It's a lovely reference photo. It's got some really nice backlighting on there. As you can see, there's lots and lots of distracting elements. We've got some of the, the bamboo over here. We've got these large pieces that look like they're coming out of the head there. We've also got some of the ones, that's blocking our view on the face as well. And the artist acknowledged that and found exactly the same themselves. So they took it into the image editor, cropped it a bit. If we look back at the original, cropped it and got rid of a lot of those distracting elements. So that's fantastic. The artist also lightened the panda to make it stand out more and to be able to see the eyes better. Okay, so that's definitely done. And the artist left the leaves over the nose because they couldn't find a good reference that had this kind of angle to show how the nose should look. Okay, so when you do Photoshop, it doesn't need to be perfect. It's for you to work from, so you can very easily print out or look at this reference and look at this one and work from both of them. Okay, so that's really good. And when the artist did the crop, because you can see the panda, if you look bottom right, you don't want the panda going right out on the corner, and the artist has left a little bit of space there, but I would have left some more because when it's mounted and framed, it would quite possibly end up with the back right on the corner, which just looks a bit awkward. Okay, so here's the drawing. You can see the artist, to get around that, got the body going out instead. That's perfectly fine. That's a good thing to do. So let's take a look, and remember, this is all just my opinion, and I've also got to go by the reference, by the photos that are sent in to me. So I don't know if in real life this photo of the artwork looks exactly like we see in it. So let's just fit this on the screen so we can see it a bit bigger, a bit larger. I think probably in real life it may have looked a bit more like this, a bit brighter. It looks quite subdued here. So it's basically the supplies are pastel matte light grey, so that's a good choice of paper. The light grey pastel matte is almost white. Okay, it's just off-white. The other one that would have worked would have been the light blue, and that's lighter than the pastel matte grey, but still it's quite a light paper. It's not a dark paper, and you wouldn't want a dark paper because when we look at the reference, we want to try and keep that brightness, that background brightness is what makes the panda pop. Okay, personally I would have looked a bit harder, really tried to find a good reference for the nose to have got rid of that really distracting leaf there. And then, as I said, it possibly looked like this. If not, all of the base colors needed to be that bit brighter to get that colorful look, that vibrancy that we saw in the reference. The problem with lightening it, as we see the reference here, the panda's got some nice darks in the shadow, and the lighting effect is backlit. It's wrapping around the top of the body a bit, okay, but it's mainly a backlighting effect. And then we've got a rim lighting around the panda. Okay, that's what's helping us. When you lighten everything, then if you squint at the screen, you see the panda pretty much almost goes back into the background. If it wasn't for the fact that it's black and white, it would not be a dissimilar real tonal value. lightness and darkness to the background, whereas here we get more of a feel of the 3 dimensions of the panda because of that shadow. Okay, so I understand what the artist was doing, but you've got to be careful you don't make everything kind of the same tonal value. So let's have a look at the drawing again. Okay, so here's a few things I've just done in Photoshop to show what I mean. Okay, because I'm not going to spend too much time on each piece of artwork, so I want to try and get through a few so we can learn different things. If I put the shadow back in, and this is crudely done in Photoshop, I'm no Photoshop expert, it's just something I did in a couple of minutes, okay, or a minute. I've just put some shadow back in on the chin, the shoulder area. Okay, if I take it back out, see how that's already given more of a 3-dimensional appearance to it. And the other thing we want to do then is put back in the highlight. So all of a sudden, if we look back at the original piece of artwork, and then with those small adjustments, and obviously the artist could do a better job with the highlights than I've just done in Photoshop, but it's just giving you the idea of that more structured 3-dimensional appearance. You've got to concentrate on the tonal values more than anything else, the lights, the darks, the mid-tone. Okay, you can see that that's more in keeping now with the original reference photo, but we've still got more of the detail in the eyes, that lightness that the artist wanted. Okay, so hopefully that helps and points you in a bit more of a direction for tonal values. Okay, on to the next one, a lovely dog portrait by Gloria of her dog Lily. The reference photo is poor quality, okay, but the lighting on the dog, the expression is fantastic. When we've got good lighting like that, we've got enough detail in there, you can work more loosely, but you can still end up with a really, really good portrait. Lighting for me is everything, much more than detail. Now Gloria's done this on pastel mat. The background, she used pans and then pencils and various supplies for the dog. Okay, so on this one, what I'm going to do is show you, because I'm using a drawing screen, I'm going to draw on top of it just to adjust a few things, and I want to show you the big difference it can make. In a lot of my videos I talk about the blackest black pencils or pastels that I've got. It used to be new pastel, and I used to sharpen those hard pastel sticks, the blacks, to a point on the end and use those to get the blackest black. So the area around the dog's eyes, in the nose, the black part of the nose, anywhere that was super black, that's where I would use that. I wouldn't use it everywhere. More recently I use Cretacolor black chalk. Now those are like leads, okay, and you can just sharpen the edge, the end of them, with a cheap plastic sharpener, and you use a holder to hold the lead, so it's just like a pencil. It's as black as a new pastel, but it's easier to sharpen, easier to use. They will get those dark blacks. So as I said, because I'm using a drawing screen, what I'm going to do is just go over the dog in areas. So let's duplicate the layer so I can show you then at the end. We'll call that darks, the difference it makes. Okay, so I'm just going to go over, and the areas that I see need to be a bit darker, I'm just going to go over with my drawing pen and make those just a little bit darker. Now this is not going to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, okay, because I'm not that good with digital art at all. It's something I want to get into, but I haven't got the time at the moment. So I'm just darkening areas. Now what I'm doing, I'm using the burn tool on Photoshop, okay. All it does is it's darkening things. It's not getting rid of details or anything, it's just darkening. So around the eye, the left eye up here, that goes darker. Under the eye goes a bit darker. Down here, the side of the face there and under the chin. So I'm just scrubbing it on, you know, where it needs to be, I think, a little bit darker. Simple as that. As I said, this is certainly not perfect. So around here, down by the collar, could go a bit darker, and by the chest there. And I'll do a couple of the mid-tones. So that was the shadows, and if I go to mid-tones instead, just darken down the side there. So that's something that Gloria could do really easily with her pastels, even at this stage. Now I'll just do a couple more on the darks down here, the shadows on the mouth there. You see that could have been a bit darker, and it could have been done obviously a lot better than I'm doing here with Gloria. She's a very capable artist, as you can see. It's a real lovely drawing anyway. Nothing really needs to be done, but just a couple of minutes work, nothing more than that. That's all I've done. A little bit more of the eye, under the eye there I can see, a little bit there, a bit there, and that'll do it for the shadows, I think. Just a little bit more, perhaps they call these highlights by let's darken that down, because we've got some lovely light in this side light, and that's what makes it. So that's what we need to get right. Okay, now I always say that the important part are the tonal values, and this is showing you that exactly. A bit darker on the nose there. Okay, so let's just click that off and see the difference. Okay, that's the difference, just a bit of extra dark. Like I said, sometimes with pastels the blacks look really black, and the other thing you need to be careful of is that you're not putting anything under the areas that need to be very black. So around the eyes, don't get anything else under there, go straight in with the pure blacks. So that's the difference that makes. Now what if we look at, we duplicate that now, and let's call these lights. Now what if we do the same, but this time so that was burn, we dodge. Okay, so we don't need to be worrying about what I'm doing as such. It's not a Photoshop lesson. But now we can work on the highlights. Okay, so dodge will increase the highlights. So what if I just said to Gloria, okay, punch up the highlights. I'm known on Patreon for using that term, punchy highlights. You know, I like bright colours, I like extreme lighting. So I'm seeing the cheek area here, that go a bit lighter. Now sometimes when you're doing in Photoshop it does funny things with colours, so ignore that, but just think of the lightness that I'm putting on around this eye, up the top, the eyebrow, it's a bit lighter, a bit there, and there. Is that about it? Don't need much else. Could have done a bit more on the highlight of the nose. Eyes are nice and bright anyway, but punch them up a bit. So that's about it. As I said, it's super close to being just perfect anyway. It's a lovely piece of art that doesn't need much adjustment, but I think this helps a bit more. So what if we take that off? Take the highlight off, take the darks out, and then put them back on. Okay, so that's the difference when you get your tonal values right. So always look at your tonal values. So with the reference photo, I could have taken that to let me see, let me just turn it into black and white. You can see the tonal values there, where the lights are and the darks especially, and you can go through different filters on here that will, you know, reverse things and do funny things with it. But you can see now where the darks needed to go darker, the lights needed to go lighter. Put the colors back in. So if once again I turn on the darks, that made a big difference. and turn on the lights as well. Really just made it look three-dimensional. It gives it the shape and the form. Okay, the lights and the darks gives it the shape and the form. Now regarding the background, I like the background in the reference photo, but I also really like the background Gloria's done. It's super subtle. It's using the colours out of the dog's coat, so I think that works very well. Now that we've got the lights and the darks in there, I think it brings it from the background. The only problem I had with the drawing as it was there is that there wasn't enough contrast between the dog and the background. When we put in the darks, that lifted it. The highlights especially really brought it from the background. If you wanted to see what it would look like with just a plain background in there, obviously we've lost our lovely soft edges that Gloria's done, but you can see that can make a difference as well. And it's personal preference then. I think I like the way Gloria has done it. So hopefully, Gloria, that helps you. You are so close. Just a few darks and a few highlights, and I think you've got an absolutely phenomenal drawing of your wonderful Lily. And thank you very much for sending it in. So I hope you've all enjoyed those two critiques, and I'll see you all again on the next video. Just wanted to quickly mention my Patreon channel for those looking for even more in-depth art instruction. It's packed full of pastel videos, oil videos as well, and those videos are being added to new ones every single month. I have videos for the complete beginner that have never done pastels or oils before with just limited supplies, and I take you from the very first blocking in all the way through to the final detailed drawings and paintings. I've also got some really unusual subjects as well, and in all of my videos I always take you through all the details. You see everything I do, how I create my work. But it's not just for beginners, it's also for novices, and I also show the best artwork that I've ever done as well. And this particular elephant video spans 6 hours, so you know you're going to see tons and tons of details, tips and techniques. And as mentioned, I've got lots of oil videos on there too, so there really is something for everybody, and you get access to hundreds of hours worth of videos for just $4. Now over 1,000 members strong. Hope to see you there soon.